What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Frankie D'Astoli Show. I am your host, Frankie D'Astoli, and Happy New Year. Very excited to have everybody here. If you're listening to this on January 1st, I hope you had a blessed New Year's Eve, and I pray that you have a blessed 2025. We got a lot to talk about, so without further ado, I'm going to get into it. The words of David's son, Koheleth, king of Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says Koheleth. Vanity of vanities, all things are vanity. What profit have we from all the toil which we toil at under the sun? One generation departs and another generation comes, but the world forever stays. The sun rises and the sun sets, then it presses on to the place where it rises. Shifting south, then shifting north, back and forth shifts the wind, constantly shifting its course. All rivers flow to the sea, yet never does the sea become full. To the place where they flow, the rivers continue to flow. All things are wearisome, too wearisome for words. The eye is not satisfied by seeing, nor has the ear enough of hearing. What has been, that will be. What has been done, that will be done. Nothing is new under the sun. Even the thing of which we say, see, this is new, has already existed in the ages that precede us. There is no remembrance of past generations, nor will future generations be remembered by those who come after them. I said in my heart, come now. Let me try you with pleasure and enjoyment of good things. See, this too was vanity. Of laughter I said mad, and of mirth, what good does this do? Guided by wisdom, I probed with my mind how to beguile my senses with wine and take up folly, until I should understand what is good for human beings to do under the heavens during the limited days of their lives. I undertook great works. I built myself houses and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks, and in them set out fruit trees of all sorts. And I constructed for myself reservoirs to water a flourishing woodland. I acquired male and female slaves, and had slaves who were born in my house. I also owned vast herds of cattle and flocks of sheep, more than all who had been before me in Jerusalem. I amassed for myself silver and gold, and the treasures of kings and provinces. I provided for myself male and female singers, and delight of men and many women. I accumulated much more than all others before me in Jerusalem. My wisdom too stayed with me. Nothing that my eyes desired did I deny them, nor did I deprive myself of any joy. Rather, my heart rejoiced in all of the fruit of my toil. This was my share for all my toil. But when I turned to all the works that my hands had wrought, and to the fruit of the toil for which I had toiled so much, see, all was vanity and a chase after wind. There is no profit under the sun. What about one who succeeds a king? He can do only what has already been done. And that is a reading from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 1 to 9, and chapter 2, verse 1 to 12. And I wanted to start with this because we're entering into a new year. And with New Year's, especially for entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate investors, come goal settings, right? And I love setting goals. I grew up setting goals. Like I've said, one of the best things that my parents ever did for me was they put me in karate. And karate, not just karate, but they put me in a top tier karate school that taught me things such as discipline, courage, responsibility, etiquette, and a really, really big, powerful thing that it taught me was goal setting, right? And in karate, if you think about it, you have a whole, grand vision of being a black belt, but you achieve belts and ranks leading up to that black belt. And that's all goal setting. That's really what it comes down to. And now as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor, as a business owner, I too set a lot of goals. But what we hear in the book of Ecclesiastes, and just to give everybody a little bit of context here, Koheleth really translates to preacher or teacher. And it is said that King Solomon himself wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, and King Solomon was the son of David. So that's how he addresses himself in the beginning, and he was known for being the wisest king and the richest king. And it says in all of this stuff that he consistently it seemed like he was searching for more. And the more that he indulged in these good things, the lands, the woodlands, all the properties that he's building, all the silver and gold, he noticed that it just is vanity on vanity, right? The more that he accumulates, the more that he spends, the more he strives for this quote unquote joy within his heart that he is seeking. He sees that it's all passing and it's not lasting, right? And I think this is really, really important as entrepreneurs, as people with that entrepreneurial spirit like I am myself. And I had a little bit of a moment of reflection yesterday, and this is kind of where I heard the calling of this reading in Ecclesiastes. I was laying in bed last night, and I'm praying the rosary. And next to me is my daughter, Bernadette. She's sound asleep. She's kind of, crumpled up right on my arm or whatever you want to call it. She's laying right next to me. And then next to her is my wife, Christina, who's reading a book on our Blessed Mother Mary. And I just had one of those reflective moments where I'm like, listen, we're at the end of 2024. Where were we when we started? We started in our house hack, January 1st of 2024. We were in our house hack. Our daughter, Bernadette, was 2 months old. I had no other properties. I was in my, corporate W-2 job still. And I was still happy, right? So as I look back on this year and, my partner and I purchased 15 properties. I purchased another property on my own. So I bought 16 more houses. I'm at 17 rental doors. I left my W-2 job to, reach this whole freedom peak that I'm on. I started D'Astoli's Dojo, D&D Equities with my partner, Steve. There's so much that came from that. But really the true blessing that I have is just being in that room with my wife and daughter, praying and just being, very, very appreciative of all that we have. And if I look at that as like an equation, right, there's family plus faith plus, my real estate endeavors and everything that I've accomplished. If I remove the family, and let's just say all of that equals happiness, right? So family and faith plus my accomplishments equals happiness. If I remove the family and faith, the accomplishments don't equal happiness, right? At that point now, if all I have is the accomplishments, I'm not happy. I'm longing for more, right? I'm longing for my family. I'm longing for my faith. But if I remove the accomplishments, I am still happy because the happiness comes from family and faith. And this is something that's really just so important. And I don't want to take away from the fact of creating goals because we're going to talk about that. The remainder of this episode is pretty much going to be how to create really, really good goals and how to execute on those goals. But I want everybody to really remember, like, it's all passing away, right? And I say this like this to say as well. When I was back in January 1st of 2024, and I was like, I want more properties, right? That was on my mind. Although I was happy for sure, as I am right now, right? A thought in my mind was, I need more properties, right? I need to, if I could get just 5 properties this year, I will be happy. Like, that is huge for me. That's what I want. Well, guess what, guys? I'm now at 17 properties at the end of this year, and you know what else I want? More properties, right? I am now at a point where I've left my job and, I'm happier with the freedom that I have, but now I want even more freedom where I could totally be hands off from my business, right? So it's never ending. And when you reach that goal, guess what? There's more goals on the back end, right? You're going to continue to strive towards that new thing. And I love one thing that, the author says in Ecclesiastes is we have this feeling of like, this is new. But this has always been before us, right? This feeling of like, wow, I left my job and I'm, working, I'm by myself. Like, this is new to us, but this is all stuff that's happened in the past. It's happened to other people. And again, it's just all passing, right? So we need to be looking, as we look into 2025, guys, we need to be looking at what's lasting. What can we really build on that's lasting? That's going to give us that true fulfillment. That's going to give us that true joy so that when we're at the end of 2025, regardless of, what our circumstances might be, we are happy. We are happy, we are appreciative, and we are, in fulfillment with what we set out for. And that fulfillment comes from faith and it comes from family. And I'll emphasize this as much as I possibly can without beating a dead horse. But the faith aspect of it is being in communion with Christ, being in communion and relationship with God. And the family aspect of it is building a strong internal church within your family, right? And this is really like, of course I have my professional goals, which we're going to talk about. But my main goal is to really be the best husband, the best father, the best man that I could be, right? And I'm going to do that by providing, by protecting, and by leading. Those are my 3 kind of increments in regards to that, right? I'm going to provide for my family financially, physically, but I'm also going to provide spiritually. But now you might be asking, well, how do you provide spiritually as a husband of a family? You make sure that your family goes to church every Sunday. Why? Because us Catholics, we receive the Holy Eucharist, which is receiving the body of Christ. We receive the body of Christ every Sunday. So if I'm going to go bust it on Monday to Saturday, and I'm going to be out and I'm going to be working and I'm going to be doing everything that I can to get these houses renovated, to get them refinanced so we can make money so that we could do the things that we like to do, I better be going and bringing my kids and my wife to church on Sunday to receive that spiritual, provision as well, which is the Holy Eucharist, right? What about protecting? How do you protect? Well, as a husband, as a man, as a father, I got to be in the gym, right? I got to be going to jujitsu. I got to be doing these things that if anything were to ever come about that could physically harm my family, I need to be the one that's able to protect them. That's part of my job as being the best husband and father that I could be. But what about protection on the spiritual side, right? There's something called spiritual warfare, which I highly believe in, right? And we're always tempted, and you see it all the time with all the crazy stuff going on in the news, right? All these temptations that are constantly around. It is my job as a father, as a leader of the internal church of my family, to fortify myself and to protect my loved ones, right? And I have that. God gives that to fathers as part of their, you know, their religious duties, right? We as fathers, we as husbands, we have the ability to protect our family from any spiritual warfare. That's something that I'm also going to be. How do I do that for myself, right? How do I get to that? I need to be sharper, right? I need to understand the rosary more. I need to understand spiritual warfare more so that I could that I could protect my family from anything that comes about them. And of course, like I said, physically, I need to be physically in shape to protect them if anything were to come about. And then the leading, right? There's my three parts: provide, protect, and lead. Leading is leading them to a fulfilling life, which is exactly what we're talking about, right? Providing generational faith, not just generational wealth, which of course I strive for. Of course I want to pass down a rental portfolio to Bernadette and my son who's on the way. Of course I want to be able to pay for their colleges and anything else that they may need in regards to that, right? All of that, but passing down that generational faith as well. That's how I lead them to a prosperous and fulfilling life, and God willing, a life in eternal heaven as well. That's my goal as a father. So all of that to say is we're going to get into, and I highlight this because we're going to talk a lot about just professional goals and how to really set them and all of that. But I highlight this to say, as you're planning your 2025 goals, keep on the forefront of your mind the things that are important. And like I say, it's communion with Christ, it's relationship with God, it's relationship with family, and it's fortifying your family. And for all my husbands, fathers, and men out there, I hope that you embody the provide, protect, lead mentality that I am putting into going into 2025. And for all the moms, wives, and women, I speak, just from someone who really is appreciative of his wife, the support that she gives, the caring, the nurturing of our family. It's a beautiful dynamic when you have a family that operates in that way. So, strive for the things that are lasting. And the last thing I'll say on this is, like we said, pray the rosary, buy real estate. What does that mean? I mean, striving for financial freedom, striving for generational wealth, but maintaining spiritual poverty. Do not get lost in the professional aspect of your goals. Keep your head above water. Remember what's important, regardless of how many houses you have, regardless of how much money you make, regardless of where you are on the corporate ladder. What matters is your relationship with God and your family, fortifying your family and being close with them and enjoying those little moments with them. And we look back on Jesus Christ's life, right? Like we see that, he was born with Christmas. We talked all about that. And then you also see that 30 years goes by and you don't really hear anything about it, right? There's the gospel writers, Mark, Matthew, John, and Luke. They don't really talk too much about what goes on after Jesus is born, right? Besides the epiphany and the presentation and the finding in the temple, all of that stuff. So what you really relate from that is he lived an ordinary life, but there's something beautiful within that ordinary life. There's something lasting within that ordinary life that we could all pull from. And that's what we should be striving for in 2025. So I'll get off my preacher box for the moment. And we're going to get into goal setting. And like I talked about, before, I did karate my whole life. And the way that I set goals is actually the way that I went through my karate journey. So I'm a 3rd degree black belt in karate. I've been doing karate since I was 6. I'm 27 now. I probably stopped fully training around like 22 years old. It's kind of out of college when I started working full time. I did kind of venture back in a little bit, get on the mats a little, but I started jujitsu in September of 2023. So I've been training jujitsu for about a year and a half. And truthfully, guys, I'm still a white belt in jujitsu. Jujitsu tends to take a little bit longer to pass through the ranks than my karate training did, because there's more ranks in karate than there is in jujitsu. But I have been slacking, and that's part of my goal, is to really get back on track with my jiu-jitsu training. But the way that I look at jiu-jitsu, and I'll use jiu-jitsu as an example here, the way that they have their ranking system set up is the exact way that I model all of my goal setting, actually. And for anybody that joins D'Astoli's Dojo Real Estate Investing, if you come in on a mentorship program, the first thing that I actually do when we have our first mentorship meeting is we talk about goal setting, and we break it down in this exact way. So the formula that I'm going to give here is exactly what I give to a lot of my students. So when you think of goals, the first thing that I want you to think of is what's called a vision, right? And obviously everybody knows what a vision is. But what I mean by that is it's not a shorter term goal. A vision is like 5 to 10 years out. And when you think of your vision, what you really need to do is you need to make it emotional. And I remember I merely came up with, I really, really like dove in on my true vision in March of this past year. And when I had my emotional tie to it is when I really started amplifying everything that I was doing. And subconsciously, even without me realizing it, subconsciously, my body and mind was acting in a way that led ultimately to making decisions that will ultimately lead to that vision. So this part is really, really critical. You need to have a clear, emotionally tied vision, and your vision should be 5 to 10 years. I personally pin it at 5. I think 5 is a really, really good mark for a true vision, right? So you might say like, all right, well, I'm 40 years old. At 45, I want to be completely debt free. I want to be retired, not waiting to, be 55 or 57, whatever the retirement age is nowadays. And I want to, be able to, see my kids get married and do X, Y, and Z, right? You want it to get as emotional as possible. Or you might be on the flip side, right? You might be like, 22 years old and be like, yeah, I'm working a job that I don't really like. In 5 years, I want to be totally financially free. And I'm going to do that by doing X, Y, and Z. And this is how I'm going to feel. I'm going to feel good because I'm going to have this accomplished and I could travel, or I'm going to settle down and I'm going to start a family and I'm going to be there to, be around my kids from the jump. That's a big thing for me, right? Like I want to be around my daughter who's 1 year old, my son on the way. Like I want to be in their life from the very, very beginning as much as I want to, as much as I have to, as much as I need to. So again, you want it to be emotional. You want to really tie it with your emotions because that makes it even more deep. That makes it more important to you. You're going to strive for it. You're going to push for it. And you're going to keep it in mind when times get tough. So that's the first part. That 5 year, maybe that 10 year if you want to push it, that vision. The second goal is more of a medium term goal, right? And this goal is a year out. And this is actually very precise. It is a 1 year out goal. And it is a black and white, clear cut. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it goal that you're at the end of the year, you're going to say, did I hit it or did I not hit it, right? So if you have that 1 year goal, and let's just say it's to buy your first rental property. I'm just going to use that example. That's a clear cut goal. That is 1 year. So if you're starting today on January 1st of 2025, on January 1st of 2026, you're going to be able to either check that box or not check that box. And that's very, very important because we're going to talk about ways that you track that, right? But what I want you to understand before I move on is this 1 year goal should absolutely correlate to your vision. So if your vision is to be financially free in 5 years, your 1 year goal shouldn't be, I want to go on 4 vacations this year and I plan on paying them by maxing out my credit cards. That is not a vision. That is not a goal that jives with your vision. You need those two to jive. So if your goal in 5 years to be completely financially free, your vision, I should say, is to be completely financially free, your goal in the 1 year might be to buy your first rental property, right? Something along those lines. Then you're going to go into a short-term goal. So this is like 6 months, right? So it's exactly 6 months. Your 6-month goal should be the halfway point to that 1 year goal, which is a concrete goal. It's a yes or a no. So your 6-month goal should be the halfway point. And think about it as like the light on your path that's in a distance, right? I kind of envision, if you ever seen the movie Great Gatsby, Jay Gatsby is like standing on his back deck and there's a big part about it. He's like reaching for like this green light, and the green light is all the way across the bay on like his, dream girl's deck. And he just like, he goes out there and he looks at it and he physically reaches for it. It's a way of him pretty much manifesting what he's reaching for, what he's going for, which is to be, to be reignited with his, former lover girl, Daisy. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a good movie. I would recommend it. Sometimes I like to watch it as just a little bit of inspiration. So think of the 6 month as kind of that light. You see it, but you don't really know it necessarily at this moment, like what's across that bay, right? There's a bay there, but it's foggy, right? You're not sure. You don't know. If you step in the wrong spot, you might fall into the water, X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of like that distant one that you're keeping an eye on. So what is your goal in 6 months? Now, once you have that, what we do from there is we break everything down into 30, 60, 90-day plans. Now, I've been making 30, 60, 90-day plans for probably the past like 3 to 4 years, and they are exceptional, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to relate this back to jiu-jitsu. So in jiu-jitsu, the vision is black belt, right? That's the vision. But usually you're not getting there until maybe like 8 to 12 years down the line if you start as a white belt, right? So that vision is black belt, but I can't just say, hey, I'm going every single day to be a black belt. That's the end goal. But if I just went every single day for 12 years straight, it would be very, very hard to continue to push forward, right? I need those little steps in between, those little movements. So to break that down to your almost like your 1 year goal is to break it down to ranks, right? So you go from white belt to blue belt to purple belt to brown belt to black belt, right? You're able to break those down in jiu-jitsu in ranks. Now, the beautiful thing about breaking it down as ranks is it breaks it down even more. It breaks it down into stripes. And you need 4 stripes to get to your next rank. So if you're a white belt with 1 stripe, you need 3 more stripes. And once you get that 4th stripe, boom, now you're eligible for your blue belt, right? So the way that I look at my goal setting is the same way that I look at growing in a martial arts aspect. If my vision is that black belt, my vision in 5 years might be financial freedom. If my goal is that blue belt, my goal in 1 year might be to buy my first rental property. And then I am able to break down that 1 year goal into 4 stripes, which is 4 30, 60, 90-day plans, which correlates to 4 quarters in the business world. So I break everything down by quarter, right? And I know if I'm rolling jiu-jitsu, how many times do I need to be in class to get my next stripe? What do I got to learn in the curriculum to get my next stripe? And that all breaks down into the 30, 60, 90. So your 30, 60, 90-day plans, if you do this perfectly, guys, the way that it's designed to be, you should make 4 of these a year, right? And that'll look like January 1st, maybe a little bit at the point before, whatever it is. Then once you're done with March, boom, then you're done with, I believe it's March, April, May, June, and then you have July, August, September, and then you have October, November, December, right? So you're making them in January, in April, in June, and then in October. I believe I got that correct. If I messed that up, I hope you're following. But that's when you'll do it. You do it in those 4 months, and you're breaking it down. Now, the 30, 60, 90s do a few different things. One, I want you to think of your 30, 60, 90s as like your flashlight. Right? So if you see that distant green light, like we talked about, now you have that flashlight that you're able to see the path in front of you, right? Because even if you see that at a distance, if you pivot off the path, even by 1 degree, 5, 6 months down the line, you're going to be in a completely different spot than what you were aiming for. So the 30, 60, 90s are like your flashlight. So you can keep your eye on the path and make sure that you're walking the correct path to that 6-month goal, right? Because that's what's all leading up to. So as you're breaking down 30, 60, 90s, think of it as like your flashlight. By accomplishing your 30, 60, 90s, you put yourself in a position to tee up your 6-month short-term goal and your 1 year goal. Because the way that you structure and build out your 30, 60, 90s, your first quarter is going to all attribute to everything that goes towards that 6-month goal. Your second quarter will end with what your 6-month goal is. Now, if you've accomplished that 6-month goal and you're able to check off that box, beautiful, guys, because now you are halfway to that 1 year goal. Then you break down another 30, 60, 90, which leads to that 1 year goal. And then your 4th 30, 60, 90 is that 1 year goal. It ends at that 1 year goal. And that is exactly how you break this down into digestible pieces that allow you to achieve your short-term 6-month, your long-term 1 year, and then ultimately attribute towards your vision, right? So the way that I break down 30, 60, 90s, and I might honestly even have to make like a whole separate video on this, but the way that I really break down the 30, 60, 90s, I like to start it with a vision, right? And I'm a big visionary guy. And I think if you are going to be someone who puts your heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into what you're doing, you should be a visionary. You need to really think about what this does for you by accomplishing this. That's going to give you the motivation to keep going when times get tough. But I like to start it off with a little bit of a vision, right? So I'll say pretty much like, cool, what is my vision for the next year, right? And I'll base my 1 year, or if you want to, you could do it this way as well, your 6-month goal through that vision, right? So if it's a 6-month, my vision is, to get fully pre-approved and to have X amount of money saved up, because I know that once I have this, I am going to put myself on that path to buy that first real estate deal. Or your vision in 6 months might be like, I need to acquire 4 more properties so that I could reach my 8 property goal for the 1 year. And by doing that, I'm going to, put X amount into my pocket. And this is going to open up my, financial freedom to this, level where I could do X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. But I want you to get, again, granular. I want you to get emotional. I want you to get specific in that vision. So once you have that vision, then you're going to break it down like this. You're going to break it down by where are you at the end of 30 days at the end of 60 days and at the end of 90 days, right? Now, when I say where are you, I'm not necessarily talking about you physically in that position. I'm talking about more of like a stat line. I want you to think almost like you're looking at yourself as like a baseball card stat line in the back of the baseball card after 30 days, after 60 days, after 90 days. What does it say about you, right? Like how many home runs did you hit? How many doubles do you have? How many stolen bases do you have? When it comes to like building, a real estate portfolio, it's a very easy thing for me to relate to because I could look at it and be like, cool, how many houses did I get under contract? How many houses did I look at this week excuse me, this 30 days? How many, really like good intentional connections that I make with lenders and insurance brokers and, agents and all this other stuff. How many, how much money, how much capital did I raise in these 30 days? Those types of questions, right? But if you're in the, brand new, just trying to break into real estate, your questions might look like, cool, like how many houses did I look at? How many offers did I put in? How many lenders did I talk to? Did I get pre-approved at this point? Things along those lines. So that 30, at the 60, and the 90, you want to have a stat line. Now, this is important because you're the one that's going to need to come up with this. And this all kind of boils into my next point. You want to know what your focal points are, right? What are your focal points? Like for me, I'll give you guys an example. I made a 30, 60, day 90 that really focuses on building out my portfolio, right? And a few big focal points for me is I need bookkeeping, right? I tried to do it. And as I talked about on a prior episode, I think it was the last episode, I talked about the 3 questions that I ask whenever I decide if I want to do a job or not. Can I do it? Do I have the skills to do it? Do I have the bandwidth to do it? Well, guess what? When it comes to bookkeeping, I pretty much can't do any of those 3. So I need to hire that out, right? So that's one focal point of mine. So one of the stats in my 30 days, that first 30 days was, do I have a bookkeeper? What am I doing about that, right? Another one is I brought on a few other people into my company. I have someone who runs my property management division, and I have someone else who's working in my acquisition division. I want to build company culture. So a stat line for me is how many team meetings did we have, right? Like, did we have meetings? Did we go out for a team event? Like, what's the culture that's being built? And then obviously a bigger one when building out a portfolio is the revenue that's coming in, right? So after 30 days, how many doors did I add to our portfolio? What did that do for our net cash flow? How many properties did we stabilize, right? What did that do for our net cash flow? So all of these stat lines that are important when coming to growing a rental portfolio is in my breakdown of where am I after 30 days, where am I after 60 days, where am I after 90 days? And you could do this with anything, guys, with anything, right? Let's just say you're in a position where maybe you're not even ready to break into real estate or any type of entrepreneurship yet. You're just trying to get out of debt, right? So cool. Where am I today? Where am I today? I have $10,000 in credit card debt. Where am I after 30 days? Where am I after 60 days? Where am I after 90 days? What does that look like, right? Am I at after 30 days, $8,000? After 60 days, $7,000, after 90 days, $6,000, whatever the case might be, this is all digestible. It's all meant to be broken down. And that's how you want to be thinking. So, but your focal points are what contribute to that. So if my stat line is all of those things, those are my focal points. If you're trying to get out of debt, your focal points are where's the money coming from that I could pay for my debt? And how do I stop accumulating debt? Those are your focal points, right? And you can have as many or as little as you want, as long as it attributes to the goal. So after you have those focal points, the next part of this is the action items, right? So I have my stats, I have my focal points. Now, what are the action items, right? What are the things that I need to be doing in these first 30 days to reach those stats that I put out on the back of my baseball card there, right? On the back of, the Frankie D'Astoli 30-day baseball card. What are those action items, right? And for me, again, using my stuff as an example, the bookkeeper was to interview bookkeepers, right? I'm interviewing bookkeepers in the first 30 days, and I'm deciding who I want to go with, and I'm initiating the process. Company culture, I'm having at least one team event every 30 days, and I'm having a weekly group coaching call so we build up some camaraderie and we continue to push the culture, right? We're buying 3 properties a month. Why are we buying 3 properties a month? Why is that an action item? Because that leads to the door count that we have, which leads to the occupancy rate that we have, which leads to the net cash flow that we have, right? All of the action items, they all integrate with the focal points and ultimately lead you to that stat line, that 30-day, that 60-day, that 90-day stat line. After you do that, for all 3 of those months, for the first 30, the 60, and the 90, you then want to write a statement of where you are after the 90 days. So similarly, how you wrote your vision on the front end. And one thing I also forgot to mention, which I do highly recommend you add, is when you're making that 30, 60, 90 in any quarter, right? Any quarter that you're using it for, write your vision, then write where you currently are, right? And that's the stat line, that's your feelings, that's your emotions. And then once you put all those stats and focal points and action items in, write where you are after the 90 days. And again, this is one of those, again, emotional ties, because when you involve your emotions into your goals, it makes you work harder. It pushes you. It keeps you focused, right? It keeps you on the path. So involve that in your 30, 60, 90s. Where are you after those 90 days? And these 30, 60, 90s, they're meant for tracking goals, right? Track those goals that are further out. Again, if I just went to jujitsu every single day and was like, I want to be a black belt, it's hard enough sometimes for me to get there right now. I promise you, if there was no ranks in the middle of black belt and now, it would be very, very challenging for me to get there, right? So breaking down, tracking goals. And also another thing that the 30, 60, 90 is great for is it addresses your strengths and your weaknesses. When you are talking about your focal points, when you are putting things on paper, when you're saying, all right, by this 90-day mark, I'm going to have my first property, right? Whether that's in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, whatever it is, I'm going to have my first property. Where am I struggling there, right? Like, do I have good relationships with agents, right? Do I have bad credit? Do I need to improve my credit? Do I not have enough money in reserves? Do I not have the education? Do I need to go out and search for that education, right? All of this stuff, when you're breaking these things down, it really brings to the surface your strengths, your weaknesses, your areas of opportunity, which is super, super critical. And again, guys, I think the biggest thing that I'll stress when we talk about goal setting is you gotta make this into digestible pieces. It kills me when people are like, hey, new year, new me. I'm gonna get in shape this year. And that's it. That's their goal. I'm going to get in shape. They have no plan. They have no emotional ties. They have no breaking it down. Where am I after the first month, after the second month, after halfway through the year? How am I looking? What's my weight? How much weight am I pushing? Things like that. You got to break this stuff down. It all relates, whether it's martial arts, whether it's fitness, whether it's real estate, whether it's business owning, whatever the case might be, whether it's none of that. Just in general, you have any general goals, that's what I do. Whether you want to be a great dad. You want to be a great dad? What do you have to do to be a great dad? Like we talked about, provide, protect, lead, but you also got to show up, right? If your kid has a baseball game and you say, oh, I'm caught up at the office all the time, that's not really relating to you being a good dad, right? So there's all these things have metrics, all these things have things you want to talk about. So that is my 2 cents for you guys. When you are really mapping out your goals, have that 5-year vision, make it emotional, get involved, have that 1-year goal that's black and white. You could say with certainty on January 1st of 2026, did I hit that goal? Yes or no? If I didn't, why not? If I did, great. Let's highlight on things we did well and let's really double down on those things next year. And then you're breaking in that 6 month, that short term, that's a little bit more achievable, and then breaking it down into those 30, 60, 90 days. I tell you, it's like stripes for jiu-jitsu. It's phenomenal when you have those types of things that are in your corner that you could utilize. So I'm going to get into one last thing. I want to end with just talking about some of my goals for this year. And I, feel free to, take some of these as templates or whatever the case might be. I'm going to kind of get in depth with some stuff, but mainly just want to share with you guys kind of what I see and what I feel. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, all of this stuff, it's really awesome. I love doing it. I have the entrepreneurial spirit. I love to create. I'm constantly thinking of new ideas that come to me at all hours of the night and hours of the day. But at the end of the day, when you have the relationship with God, when you have your family, that is what's most important. And that is the stuff that we should consistently be working on and building and developing at all times, especially in today's day where it seems like if you do promote that type of stuff, like you're getting, like negative looks and stuff. So continue to push that and make sure that that's your focal point of 2025. I can't say that enough. But for me professionally, my goal this year is to reach 40 rental property doors. So again, a structure, a house, right, is a property, but doors is how many doors are within it. So if I own a single family, it's 1 door. But if I own a duplex, it's 1 property, but it has 2 doors to it. So I want to have 40 rental property doors at 80% occupancy rate, meaning there's tenants in 80% of them, bringing in $12,800 in net cash flow every single month. That is my business, professional, D&D equities goal for this year. And again, the way that I break this down is the same way that I described to you guys. I have a stat line for my 30, 60, 90s. How many doors do we need to acquire? Currently right now, my partner Steve and I, we're at 16 doors. So if my math's correct, we need to do 24 doors this month. Now we bought 16 doors in the course of 8 months. So I'm pretty confident that we'll hit that 24. However, all things change, things happen, right? We need to be able to prepare for them. But that's our goal. 40 doors by January 1st, 2026 at 80% occupancy rate, bringing in $12,800 in net cash flow. That means anything after, obviously the payment, interest, taxes, insurance is pulled out and any reserves that we put aside. That's my D&D equities goal. I have a goal to grow D'Astoli's Dojo for real estate investing. This is a passion project of mine that I've been working on. And it's been a great first year. We launched it in August. And I have a goal to grow it to 100 students in January. Right? I'm sorry, by January of 2026. That is my 1 year goal. I have bigger visions for the dojo as well, but my 1 year is there. I do have to still break that down for my 6 month and break that into 30, 60, 90s. I spent a lot of time doing D&D equity, so I got to work on that one. But that's my goal, to grow D'Astoli's Dojo to 100 students. And then on top of that, Rosary and real estate, which I constantly talk about. Pray the rosary, buy real estate. My goal with Rosary and real estate is to actually build that out. And this is something that's still in the works. None of this has really launched yet. I plan on launching it in the beginning of January, is to build out Rosary and real estate as a community that helps people achieve generational wealth, achieve financial freedom while maintaining that spiritual poverty and growing closer to Christ. And I really feel like this is a really, really big calling for me. This is probably the one idea that I've really had that I felt like is a world-changing idea. And I have very big visions on this, very big goals. I'm still building out a lot of the works with this, but my plan is to have Rosary and real estate launched in January, to start doing some local meetups, to start doing some virtual meetups, to start really bringing in together a community of people who want to be closer to Christ and grow deeper in their faith while also growing financially free. And my goal is to have 100 members in Rosary and real estate by the end of 2025. Two personal goals that I have: to get my blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I need to get back on the mats. This is also going to be a little bit of a challenge because, God willing, my newborn son will be born in the beginning of March. But I do have a goal to get my blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu. It's been a little overdue that I haven't been in there as often as I wanted to be. And again, a little more vague, but just to be the best father to my kids and husband to my wife. And I'm going to do this, as we talked about, by providing every day, by protecting them every day, by leading them every single day, both physically and spiritually. And I believe that that's truly what I'm called to do here. And I think that's what all of us are called to do, is to form that internal church within our family and to make that the focal point of everything that we do, as long as, and obviously growing in communion with Christ. So that is it, guys. I am super excited to do 2025 with you. I do have a couple of announcements. D'Astoli's Dojo, REI.com. Head over there. I am hosting a free class tomorrow, January 2nd, at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It is going to be a totally free class, and I'm going to show you how to acquire your next real estate investment deal for less than $200. I'm literally going to show you how to get off-market leads for $0 out of your pocket. So you don't want to miss it. And I'm also going to show you guys how you can do a little bit more damage if you want to spend a little bit more money, up to $200, nothing past that. Go to D'Astoli's Dojo, REI.com, scroll down just a smidge, and you can sign up completely for free. And I look forward to seeing you guys on January 2nd at 7 p.m. And I just want to say, I launched the Frankie D'Astoli Show in 2024, in December of 2024, and it has been awesome. It's been so well received. I'm so appreciative of everybody that listens, of everybody that gives feedback, and everybody that follows, rates it, reviews it, subscribes to it. It really, really means a lot. And if you do like the show, please, please, please give me your feedback, give me your ratings. I would love to make some more episodes in regards to some stuff that you guys are looking for. But I'm very excited for 2025. I'm very excited for all the content that we're going to put out there. And I hope that you guys are gaining a ton of value from it. So I pray that your goals are well driven and well focused for 2025. And I look forward to seeing you guys go out there and achieve them. And if there's any way that I could help, you could DM me at Frankie D'Astoli _REI. I am constantly checking my DMs. I answer everybody that sends me a message. So please, please, please send me a message if you have any questions. And as always, guys, pray the rosary, buy real estate. Have a great new year. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.